It's those often despairing voices that are acting more out of emotional depletion than considered response, more out of fear than a sense of inner security, and more out of a desire for revenge or punishment than for constructive transformation. Art that comes from this place isn't necessarily bad or useless, but it isn't a direction I'm encouraging myself to move towards. To me, an art based on faith is one that draws on our core values, one that can transcend the current political moment, as well as informing it and possibly even transforming it. Values that in themselves constitute an opposition to the far right. And these values are the ones that you'd expect: empathy, love, kindness, intimacy, honesty, vulnerability, and compassion. Faith is our ability to practice these values while things are at their darkest. And even if we're not doing such a good job of this in our actual lives, we can still do it in our work. George Saunders had a piece in The Guardian a few days ago in which he said, "The interesting thing in my experience is that the result of this laborious and slightly obsessive process is a story that's better than I am in real life. Funnier, kinder, less full of crap, more empathetic, with a clearer sense of virtue, both wiser and more entertaining. And what a pleasure that is, to be on the page, less of a dope than usual." Having said this, I think that in times of greater difficulty we have to look up to both versions of ourselves. The version that does the living and the version that does the making. Often the two are in disagreement, pulling in different directions, but we need to help them look after each other. The one who makes needs to ensure they don't harm the body and the mind of the one who lives. And the one who lives needs to give the one who makes the space and time to do this, to ensure that despite the political urgency of the moment, they're able to take time out from activism or simple self-defense, to allow the one who makes the experience of indecision and dithering, to say or do things that are rank deviations from the party line, to hold contradictory positions, to see situations from the enemy's point of view, and to find the enemy inside ourselves and accept it. We need faith to do this. We need faith to look after our minds and bodies, and we need faith to prevent ourselves from rushing off the edge of a cliff in our desperation to escape or change the present moment. The artist of faith knows that to live is to live amongst the total uncertainty, to live inside of the unknown. The fundamentalist, who lives without faith, tries to dismiss the unknown, tries to immediately provide answers to questions that don't have definite answers. The fundamentalist crushes the unknown, but the artist of faith enters into it with wide open eyes and seeks to share what they see with others in a similar predicament. I don't have a solution to the times we're living in, but the advice I'm giving to myself is to cultivate faith, avoid fundamentalism, look after the self that lives and the self that makes, and protect what we've made, including protecting that space of uncertainty and fragility that enables us to make art in the first place.
The next speaker is Jasmina Metwaly. Is she here? Jasmina, are you here?
Trying to get there.
Okay, great.
It's a big crowd. I was invited to participate in these events a few days ago, and I think it's great that. I think it's great that it happens spontaneously, in my case at least, because it reminded me of the days when I participated in.
Microphone closer, please.
Or I participated in similar situations where we had to organize ourselves to think about new strategies of resistance, and that is Egypt. I come from Egypt, and I lived through 2011, the revolution, and I worked on with different people, with lawyers, with artists, with activists, changing things on the ground. Some of the things that we were doing were felt very small, and they had to do with individuals. They had to do with releasing individual prisoners from prison. Some of these actions were a bit bigger and had to do with larger protests. I prepared something. Helps me focus. Today's meeting can signify a new beginning towards perhaps not only revisiting strategies and forms of resistance that already exist, but new methods, utilizing hands-on information that can activate something relevant to current political transformations, failed revolutions, no revolutions, wars, migrations. How can one activate an urgency to resist as a collective, but also as an individual? As this moment will quickly pass, we need to use it well. It is an opportunity. I learned that in 2011, when we had what I once believed to be a revolution. It did not end well. In fact, the repercussions were and still are catastrophic. But there was a moment before the massive arrests, before the military trials on civilians, disappearance cases, torture, where there was a small window, an open void where conversations between people were possible, when they were not as criminalized as they are today. I participated in meetings that were organized by different groups and individuals, cultural workers coming from both the independent world and the ex-representatives of the Ministry of Arts and Culture back in Egypt who revolted at the time against the previous regime, or perhaps because they were given a way out, a new beginning. There were others involved in these meetings. It wasn't only artists for artists, but it was a mixed group, and I found that very useful. I learned a lot from that. There were doctors, activists, lawyers, revolutionary socialists, a huge list of people. We're all in this together. The question started with how to change the way things are run, how to create a more horizontal space that does not fall under the same infrastructure offered by previous leaders, how to open the platform where leadership is not subjected to one person, but to its audience, sort of like the origins of theater, where one has to acquire a ticket to participate, to become an actor or a storyteller, where one takes responsibility. Finally, how to identify the spaces of resistance and how to make use of already established strategies of resistance, where through the act of protesting or the performance of subverting violence, one becomes stronger as an individual, but also as a group. How to change already predefined laws, such as the anti-protest law, and how to protect civilians from being subjected to a military tribunal. How to make a use of an opportunity which requires a lot of dedication and withdrawal. How to talk about funding and how to resist funding that is connected to corporations that also carry out violence, subjecting its workers to enslavement. Finally, how to live within, and the list grows. I mean, it's something that I feel is kind of, we've been revisiting these topics together. And to me, it's the space of today is a nice introduction that I would like to continue. Because I think there is an opportunity, but it needs to go beyond the talking parts, and it needs to go a bit further, and that actually, from my experience, happens rarely. I've been to a lot of events like these. There was a lot of interest in the Egyptian art and the Egyptian revolution at the time. There was a lot of curators who were parachuting in and out of Cairo and making entire biannuals out of these thematics. Very few actually addressing the on-ground, hands-on work, or utilizing that work, or perhaps not utilizing that work at all, but becoming that. I don't know how to explain that better right now, but I'd like to use my maybe another 5 minutes to the audience to maybe start something up here. do we utilize what we
What do
already
you
have?
think makes the transition from just talking to actually getting hands-on?
Well, one of the things that I did back in Cairo, that I was part of this collective called Muslimin, and we actually opened a space. We had terabytes of footage that was filmed on the ground during the 18 days in Cairo. It was in the so-called media tent. And the material was filmed by protesters, by artists, by filmmakers, by different people. And after the 18 days, we had all this footage, and we knew that the revolution, at the time that the revolution continues, but we knew that right now we cannot do it on the street no more. Not in the same capacity, at least. So what we did is we were trying out different strategies, and one of the things that we organized with that footage is public screenings. And we had public screenings, and it was very important because it was about countering states' narratives that were on television, that people believe. So it was about creating public screenings where people could come and also participate in the discussion, like the general public, the ex-protesters as well, who are no longer protesting, but also to exchange footage. So there were people who would come and bring their own footage and take footage from the drives and then project it elsewhere and open that to a further discussion. And it was an important strategy because in fact it turned into Askar Kazibun, which was a campaign against the military, the Supreme Council of Armed Forces, the body in power at the time, the transitional body between the downfall of Mubarak and the new elections. And what these screenings eventually managed to do is disseminate information. So there was no one group that was traveling, organizing screenings, but suddenly it was the information that was traveling. And we managed to register that there was around 500 screenings in one of the following years, which then were televised because they couldn't get away with it anymore. So the material was being televised. So this is a very specific strategy that has to do with my country. But I think we have to think about these strategies in reference to our own countries, in reference to, for instance,